Hello everyone. Today I wanted to continue on my journey through the films of Masaki Kobayashi and today talk about his 1967 movie Samurai Rebellion. And this stars Toshiro Mifune, Tetsuya Nakadai. And I'm following along with Stephen Prince's book analyzing the films, the cinema of Kobayashi, A Dream of Resistance. And this is Samurai Rebellion is playing on the Criterion channel. It is also in the Criterion collection as a DVD, not been upgraded to a Blu-ray. You would think a film with samurai in the title, Mifune as the star, that this would be a surefire Blu-ray upgrade, but it hasn't happened yet. The film looked absolutely terrific to me. About 95% of it did. And upscaling to my 4K television set over there in the corner. But with Criterion jumping headlong into UHD, I'm wondering how many Blu-ray upgrades we're going to have in the future. Samurai Rebellion itself was the first film where, after Kobayashi had been let go by Shirshiko Studios, where he had been for over 20 years as an intern and then a director, the television was putting the studios in Japan, as they did in America, into economic disarray. Kobayashi's previous film, Kaidan, had been very much ran over budget, so costs were being cut back. Kobayashi was let go. He agreed to film the first of Toshiro Mifune's new production company, and with Mifune worried about his own commercial success with his own production company, and knowing that his audience, has this expectation of him being this super swordsman who's going to kill off, scores of people, scores of opposing swordsmen, runs very counter to what Kobayashi's whole career is about. He certainly never celebrated this kind of martial arts and this view of this kind of sentimental, romantic view of heroism. And the film opens with a close-up of a sword that gradually dissolves into Mifune's face. And then we see Nakadai in the next shot, and I'm assuming that, I assumed, I thought, boy, they're going to have a battle right at the beginning of the movie, but they're not. As it turns out, Mifune, as a vassal of one of the lords, and this is the era of peace, where the lords were subservient to the shogunate in Edo, modern-day Tokyo, and he's testing a sword out on a straw man. and as he walks back with Nakadai, who turns out to be his best friend, he's dissatisfied. 20 years of peace, he has just sort of a meaningless job. He's henpecked at home. He's very much, and Mifune himself was, I believe, 47 at the time. He wants to get his son married. He wants to retire. He's got to find a wife for his son. And in his search for the daughter, all of a sudden one turns up. The lord of this castle and this clan has grown disenchanted with his mistress, who has turned out to be very ornery and not subservient enough to his needs. And he foists her, even though she has presented a son to him. He already has an heir, an older son. And he forces Mifune and his oldest son to accept this mistress, who's already bore a child, as the wife, they resist this, but then eventually they're sort of forced by family obligations to accept her, and she turns out to be terrific. The son and his new wife get along great. Mifune, who's been henpecked and unhappy, is just enchanted by the love that develops between them. But then the Lord changes his mind through circumstances. He wants her back again after 2 or 3 years of marriage to Mifune's son. So we have, as we often do see in Kobayashi, we have this oppressive force and that demands absolute obedience to whatever whim this absolute force presents itself. And the mistress is played by Yoko Tsukasa, and she's absolutely incredible in this movie. And really, we have all the male swordsmanship eventually in the movie, but she's really the heart and soul of the movie. This is a woman who had married or become the mistress of this lord he's in his 50s. She's very young, and she's forced to do that. She's forced then to go into this family. Now she's forced to return, and it's a very poignant and very powerful performance. This resistance against authority that this woman, has to the absolute obedience and a powerless woman trapped in these patriarchal games in which she's just a pawn. She's not even human. So the inhuman demands of authority is so much a theme of Kobayashi, and certainly in this film as well. And we have the same screenwriter who is, I didn't write his name down, but the same screenwriter as on Harakiri. And this is sort of 2 movies before Samurai Rebellion, and this is very much a kind of companion piece to Harakiri. This film, though, Harakiri was very expressionistic. It was very dark. This is much more. There's much more light here. The music is again supplied by the great Toru Takamatsu. There isn't a lot of music here as there was in Kaidan, which I guess might be considered his masterpiece as far as his composition for movies, but it's very effective. And Takamatsu was not fond of over-orchestrating movies, and it comes up in there's lots of silence, and Takamatsu actually liked silence in films. He thought silence itself was a kind of music. So even though this is a movie that eventually becomes more a Toshiro Mifune movie, the feel of a Mifune movie, than Kobayashi, this is Kobayashi really. His style is at the most mature and most powerful. I mean, I noticed what a great stylist he was, even in his early films that he didn't have any real personal investment in, kind of family dramas that Shujiko Studio was very famous for and very successful with. He had to do 4 of them. I think they're really good movies. Kobayashi might have disagreed, but they certainly, you see already that development of his fantastic style, the build-up in tension, as in Harakiri, which I'm sure is also due to the screenwriter, but the tension just it builds up and builds up. And in scenes where people are basically confronting each other, what are we going to do? Are you going to do what I want you to do? No, I'm not. And then there's other scenes. You have to do what they're telling you to do. But it moves alongside. The power of these sequences it's not as expressionistic as Harakiri or certainly of Kaidan, but it's still, the compositions are fantastic. This is widescreen, deep focus photography. There's lots of zoom-ins, close-up. There's one fantastic close-up of Mifune at the wedding ceremony where he's trying to size up his new daughter-in-law, what she might actually be like. Um, but overall, this is really very much a Kobayashi film in his, I guess you could say, his bleakness, the futility of resistance, and as it says in the title here, a dream of resistance. And Kobayashi always said you have to maintain hope above all. You know, men are evil, and they're going to do evil things, and they're not going to stop doing evil things. But you know, you nevertheless can't live without hope. So this is the last film of Kobayashi in his available filmography, 1967. He makes 7 more movies. I skipped over The Human Condition. It's 9 hours. I might do one video, but it might be too long, so I might separate it out into 2 or 3 videos. But Kobayashi, I haven't read this last portion yet of Stephen Prince's book, but he made some significant films with hit movies, and Samurai Rebellion was a big critical success. It won the best film of the year from the top Japanese magazine. It was well received, won awards in I think Great Britain as well. And I imagine it did. I didn't see anything specific, but I imagine it did very well commercially, and he had some other hits too. But again, divorced, independent filmmaker. He collaborated, or he formed a production company with Kurosawa and 2 other film directors, I think Kinoshita and one other Japanese filmmaker, but they only managed, the production company only managed to make one film, which was Kurosawa's Deska Den, which was a giant failure. And then Kurosawa attempted suicide, which was a huge incident that seemed to depress everybody in the Japanese film. The golden age of the film industry was at an end, and even Kurosawa couldn't find the money to make the films he wanted to make, despite his great reputation. So next up, probably next week sometime, I'll get to The Human Condition and then wrap up this very, for me at least, very, not just educational, entertaining and very fulfilling experience going through a director that I barely noticed before. Okay, that'll about wrap it up. Thanks for everybody, as always, who managed to listen to me, and I fully appreciate it, and you guys take care.